When we set up for this particular pose, we won't go right into it. We're going to do a little neck work first. We want to make sure that the blanket is underneath our shoulders and not actually the back of our head. I'm going to sit in front of this blanket, and you want to have these really nice folded edges. So when we eventually come down onto our backs, we want these folded edges right at the shoulder blades so that the head is off. And the whole reason for that is because when we're in bridge pose, so when we are in bridge pose and shoulder stand and things like that, we sometimes get too much bend in our neck, and that's uncomfortable. So we're going to sit here at the edge of our mat, and we're just going to pause for a moment in just a nice seated, easy pose. I know my back is to you guys, and we're just going to take some breaths here. Close your eyes. Slowing that breath down. Rooting down into the sits bones. And then as you inhale, that breath goes up the spine, up the neck, all the way to the crown of the head. So you should feel a little extra length in the spine as you inhale. And then exhale, go ahead and just let all that breath out. Maybe even round your spine just a little bit. Inhale, grow taller. And exhale. Kind of sinking here. Let's go ahead and sink into a seated cat pose. So you can draw the navel to the spine. You can round your spine. Tuck your chin to your chest. And then on your next inhale, grow tall again. And exhale, rounding, seated cat pose. Let the pelvis kind of tilt back. And inhale. Lift the spine and maybe even start to open the heart forward and gaze up. Exhale, rounding. Maybe just one or two more rounds of cat and cow. Following your own breath. And inhaling, coming to that neutral spine. And then just exhale, just drop your chin forward. So we're just going to begin to notice the flexibility here in the back of our neck. So just let your head hang heavy and see if you can draw your chin towards your chest. So no doubt, we all have different amounts of range of motion in our neck. And doesn't say anything about who we are or how flexible we are. It's just a range of motion in our neck. Inhale, lift your head. And one more time, exhale, drop your chin to your chest. Now you can lightly bring your hands, interlace them, and gently set them on the back of your head. Just letting maybe gravity, the weight of your hands, just give you a little extra stretch in the back of the neck. Don't pull or press. Don't force the neck. And then release and inhale, come on up. So just again, a word of warning that we are in bridge poses, shoulder stands. This amount of flexion is kind of what's in play. And so that's why we're going to use the blanket today. So take your blocks and set your feet on top of the blocks. And then we're going to lower down to our backs. And again, we're going to get that, the shoulders on the blanket, but your head is off the blanket. I'm going to move my ponytail to the side here. And you want to kind of ground down gently into the back of the head, shoulder blades, maybe wiggle here just a little bit. Open the palms up out to the side. Just kind of feel that extra support that you have in the back. Take a nice couple breaths here, opening up this heart space. And if you want to slide your heels a little closer in towards your sits bones, you can kind of just drag the block or the shoebox with you. And then we're just going to inhale, we're just going to lift those hips up. So notice as you're doing this, that it shifts your weight to the shoulder blades, but hopefully not to the neck. Exhale, lower down. And just a couple of times here, just to warm up the spine. Inhale, bridging up, maybe just a little higher each time. Exhale, lower. So you're just kind of playing with that pressure. Also is a nice core exercise. As you lift the hips, see if you can keep the thighs parallel to each other. One more time here. Inhale, lift the hips. And now we're going to go ahead and take the hands alongside of our hips. Wiggle the shoulder blades underneath you and see if you can come into that bridge pose. Perhaps interlacing the hands together underneath you. And you're still bridging up the feet on the block. And you're going to, I think you're going to really just notice that extra support that the blanket gives you without pressing into that neck or head. Now, if you can bridge up a little higher, perhaps you can take your hands to your low back. And you can lift up a leg if you want, set it back down, lift up the other leg, and set it back down. If you have done shoulder stand before, kick the legs up, supporting your low back, and reach the legs up towards the ceiling. You'll notice that that extra blanket just gives you a little bit extra support so that all the pressure is not into the neck. You can take the legs overhead. And then let's go ahead and slowly roll down. And we're going to take the feet back on top of those blocks. So again, just letting go here, letting that heart open up. Breathing. Now what might feel, well, let's go ahead and do this upside pigeon pose next. We're going to pick up this right leg, and you kind of bridge up and lift the right leg up towards the ceiling. You got it. And then cross the right ankle over that left knee. Slowly lower down. Just let that right knee open out to the side. And you should get a little bit of a pigeon stretch here. into that outer hip. If you want, you can interlace your hands behind the thigh if you want a little extra pull, but you don't have to. Nice, easy breaths. And then go ahead and uncross, bring the feet back down to either the mat or the blocks. We'll bridge up again and take the opposite left heel up to the ceiling. Cross the ankle over the knee and slowly lower down. As you lower down, that's where you're going to kind of feel the stretch into the piriformis muscle. Try to let the shoulders be soft and grounded to the mat. And it's completely up to you if you want to add that extra stretch by interlacing the hands behind the right thigh. It just moves the thigh a little closer to your chest, which helps to open that left hip. And exhale, release. Uncrossing the feet. Okay, so we're going to do a little footwork here. So basically all I want you to do is take a block and kind of kick the block to where you can reach it with your hands. Take your feet off the blocks, and we're just going to bridge up here now, and we're going to slide that block in underneath your sacrum. So maybe just on this lowest setting to begin with, and just kind of ground here. Again, you're going to feel a little bit of that shifting of the weight into the shoulder blades. And again, protecting our neck because we're on the top of that blanket. Keeps our neck in a nice neutral position. And then if you want a little bit more back bend, you can flip your block to the next highest setting. And if you really want more, you can come up onto your tippy toes and flip that block to the highest setting, where of course you're not as stable, but you're getting just a little bit more of a back bend. And still noticing that there's just a little bit more shift of weight into the shoulder blades. So keep an eye on that neck. Make sure it feels okay. And then we're going to slowly slide that block out, lower the hips down. Perfect. Okay. So now, because Valentine's Day is coming up very quickly, we're going to come into shoelace pose. So reach the legs up and cross one leg over the other at the knees. So you're hugging the knees into the midline, you're bending the knees, and then you're going to go ahead and reach up, curl up off the blanket, and grab a hold of your ankles or your shins, or ideally, maybe your feet. So if any of you are on social media, this is my version of a heart pose. The hands and the feet creating the top edges of the heart. Squeezing the legs together towards midline. A little bit of core work as you crunch up. All right, exhale, release. And take your feet down to the ground, and let's just windshield wipe the knees from side to side. I'm just going to release that low back. If you've kind of come off of that position on the blanket, kind of wiggle again to where your shoulders are supported on the blanket, but your head is off the blanket. And then we're going to switch sides for that shoelace pose. So bring your legs up and cross the opposite leg on top. Hug the knees to the midline. Crunch up. Reaching for the feet, the toes, the shins. And just keep squeezing the knees towards the midline for shoelace pose. And slowly, when you're ready, go ahead and release. And if you want, you can twist out here again. Alrighty, let's roll on to one side or the other. And you can kind of keep that blanket underneath your side waist here for a moment. Rest your head on that lower arm. Draw your knees up into your chest. Take a couple nice, easy breaths. And we're going to use that top hand to go ahead and press up to a seated position. So as we come up to seated, you can go ahead and slide that blanket off your mat. And I know I'm kind of cattywampus here, but we're just going to sit in easy pose and maybe roll the shoulders out. That should feel really good. So inhale, lift the shoulders up to the ears, and exhale, loop them down your back. Inhale up and exhale down. I think it was Cheryl that was saying the other day that it's so cold out that when we do go outside, we tend to just scrunch those shoulders and we just pull everything in. Everything gets very tight and spastic in those upper shoulders. So it's really nice to have this extra shoulder work. All right, reach your arms way out to the sides. Perfect. And we're going to take the right hand across the body and hook it with the left. So it doesn't matter exactly which way you go as long as we switch the other direction. And just take a nice breath here. Now try not to twist. I always kind of want to twist my torso, but keep your shoulders straight ahead so that you're just getting the stretch here across the tricep. And you can hug this arm in too if you want a little more stretch. Perfect. All right. Next inhale, reach the arms open, and then we'll switch sides. Left over across the body, hooking with the right arm or whatever's opposite for you. Yes, and you can hold on to the tricep and just kind of give it a little tug here. Try not to let the torso twist. Great stretch. All right. And then go ahead and release. Push your arms out, open. And then exhale, drop them down. All right, so that shoelace pose that we were on our back, we could do seated as well. So we're going to take this bottom left knee, face it forward, and bring the left foot over by your right hip. And then you're going to cross the right knee on top. And you're going to kind of draw these feet towards the hips, kind of maybe pull them back, and you're going to kind of even out the sitting bones as much as possible. That's the tricky thing. Yeah. All right, you're squeezing the legs into midline. This is essentially the same pose we did when we were on our backs. So in our case, everyone should have the left leg on the bottom, the right knees on top, and you're hugging the legs into the midline. All right, reach the arms out to the sides. And this time we're going to take the right arm underneath, so it's opposite of the legs, and then reach for your shoulder blades and give yourself a nice tight hug Inhale, and then exhale, fold forward so that maybe those elbows reach down towards the knees. Tuck your chin towards your chest. Feel that great stretch between the shoulder blades and into the hips. One more breath here. And then we're going to inhale, open up the arms. Beautiful. All right, take your legs out in front of you and just kind of give them a little bounce. So yeah, all these cross-legged poses can be intense on the knees, so we just want to be careful of that. And then we're going to take the right foot and tuck it over by this left hip. You want to angle this right knee so it comes forward, and then wrap the left leg on top. Squeeze the knees together. So you really want to make this an active pose by squeezing the knees to the midline, and then do your best to even out the sitting bones. You're on your own there. And so again, just as a reminder, you can look down, the right knee is on the bottom, left knee is on top. Reach the arms out to the sides, and this time the left arm is going to go underneath the right arm. Give yourself a nice big hug, and exhale, fold forward. Tuck the chin into this little space that you've created between the arms. Go ahead and let that flexion occur in the neck, rounding the spine. Great stretch. And then inhale, go ahead and open up. Great. Take the legs out in front of you. And hands on either side of you. Now, if you still have those blocks, this is just optional. If you still have those blocks, you can set your blocks on either hip. If you have a situation where you don't have two blocks, then don't worry about it. But what we want to do is press the hands into the blocks on each hip, and then depress the shoulders, and see if maybe you just lift your buns off the mat an inch or so. Again, you might collapse the shoebox if that's what happened for your props. Exhale, lower down. That gets very nicely into those shoulder blades. One more time. Squeeze the elbows in toward your waist. Press into the blocks. Lift up. Yeah, nice. Exhale, lower. This time, you go ahead and just back those blocks out of the way. Inhale, reach up. Flex the ankles, and we're just going to fold forward. Try to hinge at the hips as much as possible. Hands can come on either side of the shins. And just breathe here. Make sure you soften the back of the neck. So this is a time where you don't want to look at the monitor. You just want to let the back of the neck relax. Soften with your breath. Good morning, hamstrings. And then I usually remind you guys that if you feel this too much in your back, you want to come up a little higher. And lengthen the spine. All right, next inhale, extend the fingertips forward and up overhead. Let the palms meet, slide the hands down to the heart space. Awesome. Alrighty, we're gonna come onto hands and knees next. So you can face whatever direction works for you, but this was the back of my mat. Now I'm facing the back of my mat, but otherwise you have a different angle view. All right, so just maybe one or two cat and cow breaths here. Inhale, to fill the heart, and exhale, round into cat pose. And see if you can get that same feeling of the space between the shoulder blades. Draw the navel to the spine. Inhale, drop the belly, open the heart. Lift the gaze. Exhale, round. One more time, inhale. Notice that this is a lot of shoulder work. And exhale, round. Drop your hips towards your heels and let's come into child's pose. Now, typically, my forehead does not like to touch the mat in child's pose, and it's usually because my spine and the back of my neck are tight. But because we've done these great stretches, hopefully you'll find that this is a little easier way to reach the forehead to the mat. All right, next inhale, coming up to hands and knees. We're going to step this right foot forward and just kind of come into a nice low lunge. You can walk the hands forward. Try not to put a lot of pressure into the hands. Keep the hands nice and light. If you need padding underneath that back knee, feel free to do that. Or sometimes you can just tuck the toes under and lift that back knee up. You're still getting the stretch into the front of the quadricep and hip flexor. And then set that knee down if you lifted it, and we're just going to rock the hips back. So you want to, again, stay really light with the hands and fold over that forward leg. Maybe point and flex the ankle. And then this time, press into that forward right foot, reach the arms up overhead, crescent moon pose. Maybe find a little back bend here as your gaze goes up. And exhale, take the hands down, step that right knee back, and we'll switch sides. Left foot step forward. And, oh yeah, tight. So finding that nice low lunge, stretching into the front right hip flexor. So walking the hands forward, light fingertips. Tuck the toes under, lift that back leg if you'd like to get a little more energy. Reach through that back right heel. Set the knee down, rock the hips back, hinging forward over that left leg. And just a nice pointing and flexing of the ankle. Always seems to do the trick. And then we'll press into that forward left foot, reach the arms up overhead. Crescent moon pose. Exhale, hands come on down to the mat. Step back with the left foot. All right, let's come into child's pose. Bow the head down. Bring your attention to your breath. Try to collapse the front of the body to the thighs as much as possible so that the breath that's wrapping around the back body is expanding that space between the shoulder blades. And then inhale, come on up to hands and knees. And we're going to sit back into hero's pose. So this is a great knee stretch. If this is too much knee bend for you, go ahead, take that block, set it between your calves. Maybe take those 2 blocks, set it between the calves. Ah, so wonderful. What you want to do is have that nice tall spine and just let those arms go. Yeah. Root down through the sitting bones. So whatever amount of support you need, if you even need more, you could grab blankets. But you want to get the pressure off the knees if the knees are an issue for you, or the tops of the feet. So we're just going to pause here. I feel a little bit like the king of the mountain here, being up so high. It feels great though. Inhale, reach the arms up. And then on your exhale, go ahead and twist to the right. So the left hand comes to the side of this right thigh. Look over your shoulder. Torso is nice and tall. And inhale, reach the arms up, facing forward. And exhale, twist to the left. Looking over the left shoulder. And inhale, come up with the arms. Palms come together, exhale, lower to the heart space. All right, so, this is a little bit of a Valentine themed class. So we're going to do camel pose. So this is a heart opener. Come on up to tall kneeling. And if you want, you can keep that block between the calves and just kind of squeeze the legs to the midline. Or you can take the block to the outside edge of the ankle. Option to tuck the toes under or to keep the tops of the feet flat. So whatever really works for you. And we're going to take our hands to the low back. So as we do this, we're squeezing the shoulder blades together, and then we're pressing the hips up. We're going to gaze upwards. So when you think about this pose, if we were to flip it to being on our back, we are in that bridge pose. And, with the block underneath our hips. All right, so gently look over the shoulder on the same side that you put the block and see if you can reach your hand to the top of the block. And perhaps reach the opposite right arm up, half camel. If you don't need the block and you can reach your hand to your heel, that's fine. All right, exhale. I'm just going to wave the arms forward. We're just going to take a little counter stretch in child's pose. Bow the forehead to the floor. So you're really allowing the spine to round. Again, sending that breath to the space between your shoulder blades. And then once again, we'll rise up to tall kneeling. Switch that block to the outside of the other foot. Tuck the toes under if you'd like, an option. Hands go up, back, squeeze the elbows together. So initially we're just doing kind of a camel pose. So this is just kind of an upright bridge pose, heart opener. Opening the heart chakra, the throat chakra. You get a stretch into the front of these hip flexors. And then you're going to look over that opposite shoulder, bring your hand to the top of the block if you can reach, and then take the left arm up. Keep pressing the hips forward. And then when you're ready, go ahead and round forward to child's pose. Counter stretching, counterbalancing the back. And then our next inhale, rising up to hands and knees. Tuck your toes under, and we'll come into our first downward facing dog. And maybe those hamstrings are pretty loosened up, but if you want to walk your dog out here, you can. Bending one knee, straightening the other. And then we're going to walk our hands all the way back to our feet. So just one hand at a time. Start to slightly bend the knees and just hang here in a ragdoll. So a couple of options. You can bend your elbows and reach your hands to the opposite elbows, or you can interlace your hands and just maybe sway here back and forth. When we teach kids, we pretend this is our elephant trunk. And just swaying. Again, feeling the release in the back of the neck and in the shoulders. And then we're going to come on up halfway. So lengthening the crown of the head and setting your hands to the top of the shoes. So just right below the knees. And squeeze the shoulder, don't let your spine round. So squeeze the shoulders together, the shoulder blades together, and your gaze is down at the mat so that you have this nice, long, flat spine. Take another breath, inhale. Exhale, fold, still keep that slight knee bend, and we are going to slowly root to rise. So reach on up. Beautiful. And then exhale, hands to the heart space. So finally, we're standing. We are only 40 minutes into the class. Anjali Mudra. Nice slow start this morning. So find your nice steady mountain pose here. Either hands at the heart space for Anjali Mudra, or if you prefer, you can reach your arms down along your sides. So extending the fingertips, lengthening with your breath, reaching that breath up through the crown of the head. Nice, strong mountain pose. If you want, you can lift up all 10 toes. You can feel the engagement of the quads. And keep that engagement, the strength in the thighs, and slowly set those toes back down to the mat. Beautiful. Alrighty, we're going to take our hands to the heart space. If you came into traditional mountain pose, we're just going to bend the knees. We want to keep the knees nice and parallel to each other. Feet are parallel, knees are parallel. And just sit the hips down nice and low. Gaze is forward. So I want to try to keep the chest lifted and use those shoulder blades to draw your shoulders back. We don't want to round the chest here. And we're going to take a twist. So take a nice deep inhale. And on your exhale, twist to the right. See if you can bring this left elbow to the outside right knee. And look over your right shoulder. Keeping those knees even with each other. Sometimes I just glance down at my knees to kind of check their alignment. You don't want to let the hips turn and twist. Next inhale, coming back to the center, chair pose. Exhale, hinge and fold over. Drop the crown of the head towards the floor. Make sure that you're keeping a little soft bend into the knees. Inhale, let's come on up halfway, lengthening the spine. Exhale, fold. Once again, bend the knees, coming into chair pose. So you really want to draw the navel of the spine. This is core work. Take a nice deep inhale. And then exhale, twist left, right. Elbow comes to that outer left thigh. Press the palms together. You can look over that left shoulder or look down at the knees, check them out, make sure they're even with each other. One more breath here. Exhale, fold. Let all the breath out, just folding forward. Inhale, come on up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, bend the knees, root to rise. Let's come all the way up to standing. Palms meet overhead. And exhale, hands to the heart space. So, just a couple warrior poses. We're at the back of our mat. So we're just going to take one gigantic step forward with our right foot. And then go ahead and bend this right knee and angle the back left foot 45. You want your legs into parallel lines, hip distance apart. Look back, in fact, look back at your left leg. Make sure you're not in one straight line. And then really work on extending that back left knee. Reach the arms up, parallel. Your chest is facing forward for warrior one. A couple nice breaths here. Take a nice deep inhale. Pivot open to your left. So now you can wiggle your feet to where they're in one tightrope. The hips are opening to that long side of the mat. Arms are out to the T, gaze is over your right fingertips. And then we're going to bring the right forearm down to the thigh and come on into extended side angle. Lengthening from the left fingertips all the way to the pinky toe side of that left back foot. And next inhale, come on back up, warrior two. All right, we're gonna step back to down dog, but take your hands down to the mat first. Step back to down dog. Root the hips back. And then we're gonna walk our hands back again to our feet. Forward fold. Inhale, come on up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise. We'll come all the way back up. Exhale, hands to the heart space. So stepping forward with the left foot. So it's a couple big steps forward to where you can bend that forward left knee. Right foot angles out 45. Check your alignment. Feet need to be in those two tracks. Otherwise, our balance is challenged. Reach those arms up to where they're parallel. Energy out the fingertips. Elbows are as straight as you can make them. Shoulders are sitting in their sockets. So you can even draw the shoulder blades down your back a little. Next inhale, pivot open to the right, warrior two. Gaze is over your left middle finger. Still bending that left knee right over the ankle. And then left forearm down to the thigh. And reach the right arm alongside your ear. Extended side angle. You can look up underneath this right arm. Lengthening the right side body. Shoulders stacked. Inhale, come on back up, warrior two. Perfect. And then again, we're going to cartwheel the hands down to the mat. Step back, down dog. And hey, you always have an optional vinyasa if you want to do here, but we're just trying to keep this class away from all the chaturangas as much as possible. Root the hips back, lengthening the spine. Once again, we're going to walk our hands back to our feet. If you'd like, you can hang here like a rag doll for a moment or two, swaying or not swaying. The head and the neck hang heavy. And then come on up halfway, hands to the top of the shins, lengthen through the crown of the head. You don't want to turtle your neck here. Gaze should be down at the mat. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise. We're coming all the way up to standing. And we're going to go ahead and join the hands together overhead. Maybe Steeple Mudra. I think my hands might be off the screen, but pointing the fingers up, lengthening overhead. And then we're going to just come into a nice little standing tree pose. So begin to slide maybe your right foot up, maybe just to your calf. Now, if you can slide that knee up a little higher, feel free to do that. But remember, this is a core exercise, so we want to keep our balance, our gazing point. Maybe just checking our balance skills. If you want, you can pull those hands down to the heart space. You can interlace the fingers, press the palms outward, draw the hands back into the heart space. Anjali Mudra, and then reach the fingers up top. Steeple Mudra, all in our tree pose. And then exhale. Take that foot down. Go ahead and walk the legs out. Good work. All righty. So inhale, we'll just sweep the arms up overhead again, coming into Steeple Mudra. So interlacing the fingers and finding that gazing point. And take that opposite foot, slide it up to wherever it's comfortable. So you're drawing the navel to the spine. This is core work. And it doesn't really matter how far you bring that knee up. I do recommend that you don't actually reach for the foot to pull it up. Keep those arms lifted. And whenever you're ready, slide those hands down to the heart space. Interlace the fingers, press the palms outward. Inhale back to the heart space. Anjali Mudra. Interlace the fingers. Steeple Mudra as you reach the arms all the way up overhead. Our strong tree pose. And then exhale and drop the feet back down on the mat. Walk it out. If you want to, just kind of circle the ankles out a little bit. Sometimes those long standing tree poses are a little rough on the ankles. So switching sides. It's one thing I love about Madonna's classes. Just she always does this, always takes care of our feet and our ankles. Awesome. All right. We're actually just going to take a couple steps maybe towards the front of your mat and just have a seat in easy pose or Sukhasana. And lengthen through the back, sitting up nice and tall. Maybe bring the index and the thumb to meet. Set those hands on top of your thighs. And either find just a nice gazing point straight ahead or close your eyes. Remembering that all of our work in asanas, our poses, is just to kind of bring everything back together for calming the mind and the body, either for meditation or restorative poses. When you're ready, go ahead and just open those eyes. We're going to hug our knees to our chest. If you want to give yourself just a nice big hug here, maybe drop your chin to your chest. So the back of our neck should be feeling pretty good. You shouldn't really detect much tightness here. Options, we're going to come on down to our back. So options would be to set the feet down and lower yourself down to the mat, or if you want, and you know you have room behind you, You can allow that spine to round, tuck your chin to your chest, and just kind of have a little trustful and drop back. Maybe a little rock here. Front to back, massaging the back. It's like a little roly-poly. And then coming on to your back, set the feet to the mat. Maybe twist out a few times. And then let those legs fall on over, knees to the right. You can reach the arms out to a T, and you can look over that left shoulder. Always an option if you want a little more twist is to pick up that bottom foot, set it on the outside thigh. Just an option. And then bringing the knees back to the center, dropping them over to the other side, the left in my case. Look over the right shoulder, full twist. You can pick up that bottom foot if you want to set it on the outer thigh. And then coming back to the center. Before we come into Shavasana, we have just about a minute, one yoga minute. So you might hug your knees to your chest. You could come into a happy baby. You could take an extra minute in Shavasana if you're ready for Shavasana. You could just rock back and forth here. Whatever works for you. Extending the legs long onto the mat. Wiggling the shoulder blades underneath you. Now you have those blankets nearby, so if you want to cover up with a blanket, certainly is cold enough outside, and go ahead and feel free to do that. And we'll enjoy a nice long Shavasana, and I will guide us out in about 4 minutes. So make yourself as comfortable as you can here. And begin to let your breath just go back to its normal pace. Very slowly begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Bring movement, circulation back to your body. And eventually, you just want to hug those knees into your chest. Give yourself a nice big hug. And then rolling on to either your left or your right side. Just pausing here. Using that top hand to press up to a seated position. And we'll bring our hands together, the heart space. The light in me honors and sees the light in each one of you. Thank you for sharing your practice with me this morning. Namaste.